Hey loves, it's Britt, and in this video I'm going to talk about what it means to have your moon square to someone's Uranus in Synastry, or their moon square to your Uranus in Synastry. This fun, crazy, wild aspect, let's talk about it because it's very exciting when we have this. So this is a more difficult aspect. It's more of a red flag, but it definitely can be workable depending on the type of people. So the moon is our emotional self. It's really connected to our habitual reactions and feelings and our inner self, our early childhood messages. And then Uranus is like this crazy planet of rebelliousness and where we're an individual and where it's not necessarily how we feel. It's more just like an erratic kind of electric energy that we have. So when these planets are meeting in a square in Synastry, there's a lot of electricity and a lot of feeling of like we are attracted to this person, but we're very different. So the moon person can really feel that the Uranus person, without thinking or realizing, is constantly hurting their feelings. That's one manifestation of this. The Uranus person can seem insensitive to the moon person's emotional needs. Now, we could have other things going on in the synastry that would make that not so severe. But usually there is an underlying theme of the moon person being hurt by the Uranus person. And it's not like the Uranus person is consciously meaning to hurt the moon person. The Uranus person is just being themselves, and the moon person just happens to get emotional all the time, is how the Uranus person feels. But at the same time, there is this element of electricity. When I see Uranus in the synastry, even the hard aspects, even more so than the lighter aspects like the trine or sextile, the square, it creates quite a buzz and electricity and a feeling of like exhilaration, which at the beginning, this can be very attractive. Like when we meet, we just feel a buzz. We feel like something came over us and, you know, wow, we just really want to get to know this person. It feels really exciting. It feels like the moon person feels like the Uranus person could really rock their world and shake up their life, and like they want to get to know them. And the Uranus person likes being felt in this way, and you know, it can be very attractive. And this is an emotional aspect, right? Because the moon is involved. So there is a lot of emotion here. The moon person can feel like maybe that they overshare at times. Same with the Uranus person too. They can feel like they can get emotionally intimate very quickly and then suddenly feel like, whoa, that was too fast, right? Or that's the interesting thing when there's moon Uranus aspect in a hard aspect, is like we can really share a lot really fast and feel very emotionally intimate and connected, and then feel like, oh, this person is actually so different from me, and like, you know, like that feeling of oversharing, or like a vulnerability hangover. That can sometimes happen with Uranus aspects, specifically moon Uranus, where there's this quick, exhilarating, intense emotional sharing and connection, and then it's like, whoa, what did I just do? And specifically the moon person feels like, oh, the Uranus person is actually unstable, or they're actually unavailable, or they're actually not really caring about my feelings, and I just, you know, shared all this, and like it can feel almost kind of like embarrassing in a way, like with the square, not with so much the other aspects, but it can sometimes feel like we've become so close so fast, that like we've jumped through the natural stages of getting to know someone, and we've just gone right to the intimate parts. And depending on other aspects, if there's sexual aspects, like maybe we've jumped into that really fast, and now we're like, whoa, you know. And specifically the Uranus person can feel like, oh, the moon person has a lot of emotional needs, and I wasn't really knowing what I was getting into with that. So it's very interesting to see this aspect. But the other interesting thing about it is it's actually kind of common um, in long-term couples. And the square in the composite chart too. It's very interesting because, if you read the books, you read the Synastry books, you read the composite chart books, they will always like advise against this aspect. They'll say moon square Uranus, bad for long-term relationship, right? Bad, bad, bad. That's what the books say. But in my experience of studying couples charts that have been married for a long time, these kind of difficult aspects, specifically moon Uranus, it's actually kind of common in synastry and composite charts. But the couple with this aspect, they're not like the super emotionally close couple, like maybe they have other things going on, but they tend to have like a separate life or like separate interests or very different backgrounds or just very different personalities. Definitely, they're just really different emotionally. And for some people, like with certain placements, that's really exciting to be with someone who is so different, and actually like it's like can't live with them, can't live without them, because sure enough with this aspect, you are going to drive each other crazy sometimes, especially to live together. You are really going to drive each other crazy. But it's sort of like addicting for some people because there's this element of shock. There's this element of exhilaration. Like the Uranus person is just so freaky and eccentric and emotionally unavailable and annoying at times to the moon person that depending on the person, like some people kind of like that, like people are interesting in that, what feels romantic to some is that feeling of instability. So like this is the couple that breaks up and gets back together, and some people prefer that kind of relationship where they just don't really know where it's at all the time. And other people looking in at this couple can think, wow, that's a really odd couple, right? Like they are very different, and maybe they don't do a lot together. Maybe they go on trips separately. This is an aspect that I've seen. Couples, they go on trips separately. They do things separately. They live completely separate lives, and they come together for the excitement and the exhilaration and the electricity and the passion. But yeah, they don't really have a lot in common with this aspect. It's specifically emotionally, right? So, and then there could be other things going on that would show emotional intimacy. Like if someone has the moon square Uranus aspect in their natal, they're going to have this aspect with everybody around the same age. So like this is just a general theme of their life. So it's like no biggie, right? But it's when it's, with people of a different age where this is a new energy, that's when it gets, really interesting and you see these odd couples, right? So, yeah, and it can definitely change your life. Like when the moon is receiving squares in synastry, the moon person's life and their inner emotional attitudes really get changed, and that can sometimes be for the positive, right? It can sometimes with the moon, those are these, concentrated emotional patterns that we've had since childhood that, sometimes we do need a good shake up, and the Uranus person will come and just totally shake us up and have us emotionally feeling very different than we did without them. So that could be very challenging, or it could be very healing. So yeah, this is a really, really interesting aspect to have. Very difficult, and some people do really well with it. So yeah, that's what I've experienced with it. It can show up more in a short-term affair, and a relationship that's just meant to shake up your world a bit and emotionally change you in some way, rather than being that close-knit bond. And you have to look at the orb on this one. In a really close orb, you're going to feel this way stronger. If it's like at a 5-degree orb and then there's other beneficial things happening to your mood, I wouldn't worry about it as much. So that's always something you want to look at, specifically with these tense squares, is like if it's happening at a 0-degree orb, it's just gonna really drive you crazy more than if it's a wider aspect too. So yeah, and you have to look at the entirety of the charts, but that's kind of the vibe of this one. It's definitely a shake-up. It's definitely exhilarating. It's definitely emotionally challenging, but potentially enlivening and awakening. So yeah, I'd love to know your experience of this aspect. How was it for you? What are some other requests? I'm doing your request. This was requested. I'm talking about all types of things in my videos. Let me know below. And also, I do offer one-on-one sessions. My links are below. Thanks for watching. Love you guys.